What is up, gamers? FCast and Chill here. Last episode in the GM series, we finished off Awakened Duke, so that means that we now have 3 out of the 4 Awakened bosses completed, and we also did some of the Vorkath combat achievements, which were kind of a pain in the ass. Today we're going to be going into the Leviathan. So Leviathan's a pretty fun boss. It's the last of the 4 Desert Treasure 2 bosses I have to complete. And it's fun, but I will say that a lot of these combat achievements are a pain in the ass. And they're pretty brutal, especially the Awakened Leviathan kill, which I found to be much harder than any of the other Awakened bosses for sure. So the way the Leviathan fight works is it's a pretty straightforward boss. You go into the arena, he casts, projectiles at you. You have to pray correctly depending on if they're blue, green, or red. And essentially blue means mage prey, green means range prey, red means melee prey. And then after he finishes casting his projectiles, he'll drop some rocks on you, you move out of the way, and so on. You're able to stun the Leviathan by using shadow spells on him from the ancient spellbook. And then when you do that, you can run behind him and do an attack that does a ton of damage. But in retaliation, after you do that, he will use a special attack on you, which is either have lightning follow you around and shoot you, where you have to run back and forth with precise timing to dodge it, or he'll throw some rocks at you and then do a big blast that'll do a shit ton of damage if you're not standing behind the rocks. So there's quite a few mechanics here. Also, when the Leviathan's almost dead, he actually spawns this little empowered orb that orbits the arena, and you need to stand near it or you will take damage through prayer with his attacks. Also, if you're standing near this orb at the end of the fight, you'll actually do extra damage to him, so it can help end the fight during the enrage phase pretty quickly. So overall, not too complicated of a fight, pretty fun, but we're going to get into some of these combat achievements. So I hadn't done essentially any Leviathan, and I just started sending it and then said, hey, let's try some of these harder combat achievements and see how it goes. So the first one that we're going to be talking about is Unconventional. And so this combat achievement is for essentially killing the Leviathan while having under 25 hit points the entire fight and only using mithril ammunition. So luckily we do have a twisted bow, so we're just going to fire that up with some mithril arrows and run right in. I will say this did take me a little bit to get down because I had been using my Bofa for the Leviathan kills when I first started learning the fight, and the twisted bow attacks a little bit slower than the Bofa, so the timing for things like dodging the lightning was a little tricky for me at first. You could see here that I was trying to do this successfully and dying a few times early on. I just didn't have a lot of experience with the fight either, so it was kind of unfortunate. But yeah, it's not too bad. And after a few tries, we did end up getting it with this with the twisted bow and the mithril ammunition. And so that's Unconventional down. Surprisingly, that was a Grandmaster level task, which didn't feel like it was that hard. I guess it wasn't easy, but not too bad. So we're moving on now, and we're going to be doing the Leviathan speed time. So the speed time for the Leviathan, if you don't have a Zerrite crossbow, it's probably one of the worst combat achievements in the game. So you have to kill this guy in a minute 10 or under. And typically the fight, if you just go in with a Bofa, which is technically best in slot, you're going to end up more in the 145 to 215 range. And so you just have no chance of getting that 110 time with the conventional method, just killing it with the Bofa. And so all you need to do is you run in and pray that the RNG gods will bless you with ruby bolt specs. So that's really it. It was pretty terrible. I think I ended up ruby resetting for 6 hours before I ended up getting this time. So what I was doing is I would, climb up these footholds, shoot him once. If it didn't ruby spec, I would immediately leave and keep doing that. Pretty similar to what I did for Vardorvis. And the problem here is, even if you get 1 ruby to start the fight, unless you get quite a few more rubies, you're not going to kill him in a minute 10. It's just not going to happen. If you have a Zerrite crossbow, I will say that it is possible without, ruby after ruby. Plus, one huge benefit of the ZCB is that if you spec with it, it actually does a guaranteed bolt proc. But we only have the Armadillo crossbow, so that's not going to be happening. So unfortunately, we're just going to be sitting here ruby resetting for a long time. You can see I've also brought some Guthix rests in my inventory. And the reason for that is you can drink those to heal up without delaying your next attack. So it's actually pretty convenient for, healing up when you take damage throughout the fight and not having to worry about delaying your attacks and slowing the kill down. I've also brought Spellbook Swap to use Vengeance as well as Summon Thralls during the fight, just to eke out every little advantage that I can. So again, the goal time here was 1:10 or less. And I was actually, doing this quite a while, like I said, and there was one time when I was actually on pace to get more like 1:05 or 1:06, and I actually messed up and died, which was really unfortunate. It was pretty disheartening. But fortunately, after that, I did keep grinding, and after a while, we did end up getting some good RNG. I think I got 5 Ruby Bolt procs during the kill, and ended up getting just 1 tick within the time. So it was 1:09.6. So really just barely there. It was really stressful, and I'm so glad that this is done. So really now the last thing that we're going to do for the Leviathan is the Awakened kill count. So the Awakened fight is much, much harder than the original fight, and it's probably the most mechanically challenging thing in the game that I've done. I know I said that about Vardorvis when I was doing him, but I think this is even worse. So the way the Awakened Leviathan works is the fight starts as normal. He has tripled the health of normal, and so that's a little bit different. You can also see I've littered the arena with tile markers for this Awakened fight, and I want to give a big shout out again to Red Eye Jedi, who put together a great Awakened guide that I used for doing the setup for this kill. And it's super helpful, and I'll explain what some of these tile markers are in a little bit. But essentially the way the Awakened fight works is it starts off the same as normal. However, the one caveat is when he drops rocks on you after shooting projectiles, he will actually drop 5 rocks in a plus sign, so a kind of essentially a cross. And if you let him do that, it'll clutter up the entire arena with rocks, and you'll have nowhere to go, and then you'll end up just dying. So what you need to do essentially before he does this is you need to cast a shadow spell on him every single time he's doing his attack barrage, and then immediately run behind him to attack him. Remember that after you do this stun move, then he will get kind of pissed off and attack you with either lightning or firing rocks, but that's okay. The lightning you can easily dodge and run back and forth as I'm doing here, and all these colored tiles that I've marked have the precise positions that you want the rocks to land so that they won't be in your way when you're doing the enrage phase at the end. So again, like I said, there's triple the health of the normal fight, which is really stressful. But essentially the first part of the fight is not too bad. You could see when I was first starting out, I think on my first attempt, I actually messed it up here, and you can see I got trapped by the rocks and just kind of sat here and was annoyed that I had to teleport out and waste one of my Awakener's orbs. But that's all right. We did have in the ballpark of 65 to 70 orbs when I started Awakened Leviathan left. So, if I waste a few of them here and there, it's not going to be the end of the world. But so the fight, it's just going to go as normal. Like I said, you're going to stun him during each time he's doing shooting projectiles at you. You're going to use a shadow spell, run behind him and get one shot in for a lot of damage. Then you'll have to dodge either his lightning or his rock special attack, with the rocks, walking in a very precise formation to block his blast afterwards, but also not clutter up the arena. And so you can see I'm just continually doing that. And as you get his health lower, once he gets below 50% health, which is going to be at 1350, then a tornado comes out and starts following you. So the fight continues as normal, except now you have to worry about this tornado chasing you as well. And so this makes things a lot harder. When you're dodging the lightning, you can't just run back and forth in a line like I was doing before. You kind of have to run out to go around the tornado and keep going back and forth. And it just adds a lot of stress. It took me a little while to get down. You could see I was dying a good amount here when this tornado was coming out. Just at first, didn't really know what I was doing. Also, when you're laying down the rocks during the rock special attack, now you have to kind of run in gaps instead of just running in a straight line. And so you could see that I have some of those tile markers with gaps in between them, particularly the colored ones, where I'm now running across those while the tornado's chasing me to dodge the rocks and set it up properly for the kill. So it's very precise. There's a lot of stuff you need to know how to do, a lot of planning with the placement of all the rocks. But really, it's actually not that bad for the first part of the fight. You know, once you know what to do, know all the placing, and know how to do the pathing to dodge the tornado, it's really not the worst thing in the world. I will say, though, you know, I'm kind of an idiot, and one time I did forget my stamina potion. I think it might have even happened twice, and I just had to teleport out because, you know, if you can't run away from the tornado, you're going to run out of run energy and die. So don't do that. Don't be like me. But that's all right. You know, it's a learning process. Like I said, I had almost 70 orbs when I started this, so not too bad. But what I do want to say is the hard part of the fight. You know, I mentioned that this is the hardest thing I've done in the game, but so far it doesn't seem that bad. So what really happens is when you get him down to 540 health or below, that's when he enters the enrage phase. And if you remember the enrage phase from, you know, the normal fight, essentially this big ball spawns and then you have to end up sticking with it, or you'll take hits through prayer. And then, you know, if you're sticking with this little ball that's moving around the arena, then you will also, you know, get damage boosts from it. So you need to make sure you're staying in the radius of this. And I actually have a radius marker plugin that I'm using here. You can see when the ball spawns, you can see the box that you need to stand in. But the challenging part is while you're following this ball around, remember you have to be also dodging tornadoes that are coming at you. And there's rocks falling repeatedly from the ceiling that you need to be worried about dodging. And then also, Leviathan is blasting you with attacks where you have to change your prayer back and forth between ranged and mage every single tick. So you're having to move to stay with this within the box of the ball, having to change your prayer back and forth every tick, attack. And then also, if you notice, I have this red line marked in the center of the arena. Well, if you walk within that red box, the Leviathan can also melee you and chomp you for massive damage. So it's just an insane amount of stuff to do at once, and mechanically it's just extremely challenging. I was struggling a lot with clicking, like, you know, I'm focused on trying to make sure my prayers are correct. So then I would be like running within the red box and getting chomped and killed. I would, you know, not be moving enough. I would even move ahead of the box that's following the ball that goes around the arena some. And so then I'd start taking attacks through prayer. I just kept dying over and over again just because it's so challenging. You know, after a little while, I was consistently making it to this enraged phase, getting him below 540 HP, but I was just really struggling with getting the kill. And it was starting to get a little disheartening, but I still had a good amount of orbs, so I wasn't too upset yet. But it was very, very stressful. And eventually I did learn a few tricks, like one here, when you're proccing the enrage phase, something you can do is after you shoot him to proc the enrage, you can run out to the side, because 2 ticks after you fire the shot that will proc the enrage, that's when he'll drop a plus sign on your character, and you want to get that out of the way. So you can see that what I'll do is I attack and then run out to the side to get him to drop the plus, you know, away from me, and then go back to just doing the fight. So there's a few little tricks like that, because you don't want those rocks to get in the way, or you will end up essentially, you know, getting blocked and dying. But it's just, you know, over and over again, I just kept dying because it was so hard to do everything. I just kept getting chomped. I kept missing prayers, and I got him extremely low tons of times. One thing that would have made this fight much easier is there's a weapon called the Web Weaver bow, and this is an upgraded version of the crossbow that you can get from revenants in the wilderness. And if you have this Web Weaver bow, then what you can do is you could use the spec attack right when he starts his enrage phase, and it'll completely obliterate him, you know, knock out like 200 HP immediately. So all of these attempts where I was getting him below, you know, 200 or 150 HP and dying would have essentially been kills if I had that Web Weaver bow. But I didn't want to grind a bunch of revenants and spend a bunch of time in Wildy just for one item to fight the Leviathan. So I decided, you know, we're just going to stick it out and just try to play better. And again, you know, I just was watching over some of my deaths too, like trying to figure out like what I should have done differently, why I was dying. You can see here me getting really close again and just watching back the replay. it just kept happening over and over again. And after going through about 35 deaths and streaming for, several hours straight, I decided to go to sleep again, much similar to what I did with Vardorvis, and then decided, okay, I'll take a rest for now. Let's try it out tomorrow, see how it goes. So I got some sleep, came back the next morning and started up recording and was like, okay, well, let's go send Leviathan. Well, the first attempt that I did, I actually forgot my stamina potion again because I'm an absolute idiot. So I ended up having to teleport out. You can see I don't have a stamina here, so I'm just trying to see how far I can get before I have to leave. But yeah, don't be like me. Make sure you have your inventory set up before then. I even tried getting a Phoenix necklace in my inventory to help with the enrage phase if I mess up, but I kept forgetting to equip it as well. But that's okay. But I did go back in, and this is what happened after, I believe it was 3 attempts the next morning after that all-day stream. So we're going to go in here and climb up the handholds to start the fight, consuming our Awakener's Orb. We go over to this green B tile, first shoot, and then Shadow Barrage. And then we run back here. Once we run to the P, we can shoot again to proc his stun. Then we're going to move here to get these rocks stacked up on these black tiles, and then immediately run behind them. After the blast, run out and shoot him. Then we're going to stun him from this orange B tile and run behind. And the beginning of the fight again is just going to be similar to this. We're just doing this to start the lightning phase. And now we just run back and forth between these 2 black tiles, shooting on each one with our twisted bow, and that's going to get, just keep damaging him while he is shooting the lightning. Unfortunately, during this part of the fight, when he's shooting the lightning at you, he does take half damage, so you're not going to deal a ton of damage to him, but it's still going to be pretty nice and helpful. All right, so then we want to stun him again, and remember, we're stunning him as soon as we can each time so that he doesn't drop those pluses of rocks all over the arena, cluttering it up. So again, we're just going to be moving here, dropping some rocks down, and then running behind them for the blast, and then just stunning him again. T-Bow's actually been going off pretty hard right now. We've already done, almost 900 damage already, which is pretty nice, but we're still just hanging out here and going to dodge some lightning again, running back and forth. Also, I'm remembering that at 1350, when he's at half health, that's when the tornado is going to spawn, so I need to make sure that I'm ready for that. But again, we're just going back and forth, getting some pretty good shots in here. Already down to 1700, so we've done about 1,000 damage to him. Alright, so we're going to run over here, again, stun him. Also, after each one of the stuns, I immediately do an attack before the magic spell hits him, and then you can get 1 extra attack in there. So again, here I'm just walking and dodging some rocks and then running behind them. Good to go here. A couple more big hits and that will summon the tornado, so we need to be ready for that. But we're doing fine. We're just going to stun him here and run behind. So now's the lightning phase, and the tornado is going to come up pretty soon, so I was getting ready for that. Just going to be running around him a little bit, and the tornado spawns, so you can see that tornado chasing me. And now I've got it set up to where I can just run back and forth and then just run out on these 2 black tiles here. So kind of running in this trapezoid pattern now instead of just a line, and that's dodging it. So then I'm going to run over here and stun him again. And then if you remember, I mentioned I use those colored tiles now to line up the rocks. So I'm going to use these orange ones here, and they have a gap in them because I'm actually running to, stay ahead of the tornado. And we've done that. And then we're going to attack and just keep going. We're going to stun him again and just run away from that tornado, so we don't want to get hit by that. I think it does up to 50 damage when it hits you, which can be pretty brutal. So now again, we're just running around, dodging the lightning, making sure the tornado's well behind us, and just kind of going in circles. Now I got it set up with the timing to where I'm just going to run back now, and then again going back to that trapezoid pattern where I'm shooting on the edges there and then running out. He's starting to get pretty close to the 540 health which is what he is going to go into his enrage phase at, and that's when it starts getting really hard. I mess up there and get hit off prayer because I'm stupid, but we're all good here. We're just going to follow these light green tiles and just get an attack in, and then run this 1, 2, 3, and come out, and then we're going to stun him again right here. So he's starting to get pretty low, getting kind of close to that 540. So we do one big shot there, and then we have the lightning again. So what I'm going to do now during this lightning phase is I'm going to get him down as close to 540 as possible without getting him below. So let's try to get another hit or two in, depending on how big they are. All right, so that was a big hit. So we don't want to. I accidentally shoot him again because I'm stupid and proc the enrage phase. But all right, so you can see I'm in this orange box. I'm praying, switching to mage pray, back to range, back to mage. I'm also moving, making sure to stay ahead of the tornado, changing prayers, dodging the rocks falling, changing my prayer back and forth. I go outside of that red box there so I don't get meleeed. Still just dodging. I got hit by the tornado there for a nice 44, but we're staying inside the orange box, praying correctly, and that's all you got to do. Just make sure you focus on your prayers. And I actually killed him. So that was extremely stressful, but we fucking did it. I got the Ancient Blood Ornament kit, which means I do have my Blood Torva, except I don't have any Torva yet, so really I just have Blood, I guess. But we'll have the Blood Torva soon. I'm gonna go grind next before too long, but man, that was fucking hard. That was definitely, like I said, the hardest thing I've done in this game. I'm so glad that it finally worked out. It was so stressful. But yeah, it's over. I did get all 4 awakened bosses, and with that, I even have a green log for the combat achievements for all 4 Desert Treasure 2 bosses, which feels completely amazing. I even have my awakened attempts here if you want to see them for all 4 bosses. And remember, I didn't practice any of these on a different account, so this was kind of just watching a guide or two, going in without any practice. And as you can see here, Leviathan and Vardorvis took way more attempts than any of the others. But overall, it was about 80 total attempts in that ballpark. Because there were a few that I had to teleport out without dying just because I didn't bring the appropriate supplies. But we got all the awakened bosses down somehow. And yeah, that's probably the hardest solo challenges that we have, going to the Zuckhelm for a Grandmaster. There's still a lot of hard stuff left we have to do. You know, we got to take on the Inferno. There's things like melee only Inferno and Inferno speedrunning that we'll have to do. But before we do any of that, I want to focus on getting the master level combat tasks, because that unlocks a lot of nice rewards. So I'm going to end here, but I'll be back pretty soon to work on some of these master level tasks. And we will try to knock those out and then move on to the Inferno challenges. So got a lot more fun stuff coming up soon, but we're making progress, getting there. Feels really good to have the Blood Torva done. Well, minus the Torva. But yeah, we're getting there. It feels good. Awaken Leviathan down finally, and I am super happy about it. But yeah, if you're enjoying the content, please like and subscribe. I will be back soon with another episode. And we're getting closer to that Zuckhelm, so hopefully we'll get it before too long. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.